Not everything we give to God is actually being accepted by God. And that's uncomfortable because most of us assume the opposite. If we're sincere, if we mean it, if we're consistent, then it must be accepted, right? We've been trained to focus on what we're doing, but not necessarily on what God is receiving. So over time, we develop an assumption. If I'm doing something for God, then it must be acceptable to God. But Scripture doesn't support that. By faith, Abel offered to God a more acceptable sacrifice than Cain. Two people, both bringing something to God, both making an offering, both acknowledging Him, and yet one is accepted and one isn't. Think about that. Neither one ignored God, both showed up. Neither one withheld anything, both gave something. The issue isn't effort, so it is. Same action, different outcome. So the question isn't, did we give something? The question is, was it acceptable? Because if we're honest, we tend to think like this. If I show up, if I do the right things, if I mean it, if I put my heart into it, then God must receive it. But that centers everything on us, our effort, our sincerity, our consistency, as if those are what determine what God accepts. But Scripture shows otherwise. Cain brought an offering. Abel brought an offering. God didn't reject the idea of an offering. He rejected one of the offerings. So the issue isn't whether something was brought. The issue is what kind of offering it was. What was behind it? What did it come from? Because externally they appear the same, but internally they're not the same. This confirms what we've already seen. We can do the right things externally and still be disconnected internally. Now we're seeing the result of that. Not everything given is actually received. God is not just looking at what we bring. He's looking at how we bring it and why we bring it. Worship isn't validated by how we feel or how it looks or even how consistent it is. It's measured by whether it aligns with what He accepts. And that means something simple but serious. We don't define what is acceptable, He does. And this is important to understand. In our culture, we're used to things being subjective. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. What's meaningful, what's valuable, what's acceptable, all determined by the one receiving it. And without realizing it, we bring that same thinking into worship. If it feels real to us, if it's meaningful to us, if it's sincere to us, then we assume it must be acceptable to God. But that assumes we're the standard, and we're not. God does not receive worship based on our perspective. He receives it according to His nature. So what is acceptable is not defined how we feel about it. It's defined by who He is. He is the standard. Not our emotion, not our sincerity, not our intention, but Him. So the premise of worship is not what feels right to us, but what aligns with Him. Because if He is the one receiving it, He is the one who defines it. Abel's offering wasn't accepted just because he gave something. It was accepted because it was offered by faith. And that's the difference. Not just action, not just intention, faith. Scripture leaves no room for ambiguity here. Without faith, it is impossible to please Him. Not difficult, not uncommon, impossible. So if what we're bringing to God is not from faith, it doesn't matter how sincere it feels, how consistent it looks, or how much more effort is behind it. It doesn't please Him. So now we're not just talking about what is accepted, we're also talking about what actually pleases God. And Scripture is clear. Without faith, it's impossible. Faith is not mental agreement alone. Faith is trusting what God has revealed and responding to it. It's alignment with Him and not just activity for Him. So the question becomes more specific. Not just did we worship, but did it come from faith? Was it rooted in trust or something else? And if we miss this, we'll turn acceptable worship into another system of performance, trying harder, doing more, modifying behavior. But we've already established we're not performing for acceptance, we're responding from acceptance. So faith isn't us trying to earn anything, it's us trusting what Christ has already secured, which means acceptable worship doesn't start with us doing better. It starts with us trusting rightly. And this is where it gets real. It's possible to give something to God and it not come from faith. It came from habit, routine, pressure, emotion, even obligation. But if it's not from faith, it's not acceptable. For whatever does not proceed from faith is sin. Not neutral, not close, sin. So this isn't about style, preference, or expression. This is about the source, where it's coming from, what it's rooting in, what we're actually trusting in. So we're left with this. If not everything we give is acceptable, what actually makes it acceptable? If this is challenging how you think about worship, stay with this series. Because this doesn't stop here. Not everything we give is acceptable.